ولا تتولوا مجرمين قالوا يا هود ما جئتنا بالبينة وما نحن بتاركي آلهتنا عن قولك وما نحن لك بمؤمنين إن نقول إلا اعتراك بعض آلهتنا بسوء قال إني أشهد الله أني بريء مما تشركون من دونه فكيدوني جميعا ثم لا تنظرون إني توكلت على الله ربي وربكم ما من دابة إلا هو آخذ بناصيتها إن ربي على صراط مستقيم فإن تولوا فقد أبلغتكم ما أرسلت به إليكم ويستخلف ربي قوما غيركم ولا تضرونه شيئا إن ربي على كل شيء حفيظ
I'm looking for the thing.
The little black thing.
Yeah.
What's it called, the black thing?
After
Angel was it? But anyway, that's useless, I think. Maybe move those wires and see. Lift them up.
because I think that thing's important for the feedback. The static.
Yeah. I'm a little eccentric in that sense.
I mean,
Straight.
yeah, no, for sure. That's neat.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكسبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أأتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخلوا الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وعنب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلك منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمسخر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله وأطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم أن لا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسكناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نؤمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه شعرا وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم ومنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون ولا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم يرى الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعلكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون هو ليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. يا علي يا عظيم يا غفور يا رحيم، أنت رب العظيم الذي ليس كمثله شيء وهو السميع البصير. وهذا شهر نظمته وكرمته وشرفته وفضلته على شهور، وهو الشهر الذي فرضت صيامه عليه، وهو شهر رمضان الذي أنزلت فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان، وجعلت فيه ليلة القدر وجعلتها خيرا من 1000 شهر. فيا ذا المن ولا يمن علي، من علي بفكاك ركبتي من النار، فيما تمن علي وادخل الجنة برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم رب الشهر رمضان الذي أنزلت فيه القرآن وافترضت على عبادك فيه الصيام، صل على محمد وآل محمد وارزقني حج بيتك الحرام في عامي هذا وفي كل عام، واغفر لي تلك الذنوب العظام فإنه لا يغفرها غيرك يا رحمن يا علام.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أفتتح الثناء بحمدك، وأنت مسدد للصواب بمنك، وأيقنت أنك أنت أرحم الراحمين في موضع العفو والرحمة، وأشد المعاقبين في موضع النكال والنقمة، وأعظم المتجبرين في موضع الكبرياء والعظمة. اللهم أذنت لي في دعائك ومسألتك، فاسمع يا سميع مدحتي، واجب يا رحيم دعوتي، وقل يا غفور عثرتي. فكم يا إلهي من كربة قد فرجتها، وهموم قد كشفتها، وعثرة قد أقلتها، ورحمة قد نشرتها، وحلقة بلاء قد فككتها. الحمد لله الذي لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا، ولم يكن له شريك في الملك، ولم يكن له ولي من الذل، وكبره تكبيرا. الله أكبر. الحمد لله بجميع محامده كلها، على جميع نعمه كلها. الحمد لله الذي لا مضاد له في ملكه، ولا منازع له في أمره. الحمد لله الذي لا شريك له في خلقه، ولا شبيه له في عظمته. الحمد لله الفاشي في الخلق أمره وحمده، الظاهر بالكرم مجده، الباسط بالجود يداه، الذي لا تنقص خزائنه ولا تزيده كثرة العطاء إلا جودا وكرما. إنه هو العزيز الوهاب. اللهم إني أسألك قليلا من كثير مع حاجة بي إليه عظيمة، وغناك عنه قديم، وهو عندي كثير، وهو عليك سهل يسير. اللهم عن عفوك عن ذنبي، وتجاوزك عن خطيئتي، وصفحك عن ظلمي، وسترك على قبيح عملي، وحلمك عن كثير جرمي، عندما كان من خطئي وعمدي، أطمعني في أن أسألك ما لا أستوجبه منك، الذي رزقتني من رحمتك، وأريتني من قدرتك، وعرفتني من إجابتك، فصرت أدعوك آمرا وأسألك مستأنسا، لا خائفا ولا وجلا، مدلا عليك فيما قصدت فيه إليك، فإن أبطأ عني اعتبت بجهلي عليك، ولعل الذي يبطأ عني هو خير لي لعلمك بعاقبة الأمور. فلم أر مولا كريما أصبر على عبد لهيم منك علي يا رب. إنك تدعوني فأولي عنك، وتتحبب إلي فأتردد إليك، فلا أقبل منك، كأن لي التطول عليك، ولم يمنع ذلك من الرحمة لي والإحسان إلي، والتفضل علي بجودك وكرمك. فارحم عبدك الجاهل، وجد عليه بفضل إحسانك، إنك جواد كريم. الحمد لله مالك الملك، مجري الفلك، مسخر الرياح، فالق الإصباح، ديان الدين، رب العالمين. الحمد لله على حلمه بعد علمه، والحمد لله على عفوه بعد قدرته، والحمد لله على طول أناته في غضبه، وهو قادر على ما يريد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله خالق الخلق، باسط الرزق، فالق الإصباح، ذي الجلال والإكرام والفضل والإنعام، الذي بعد فلا يرى وقرب فشهد النجوى، تبارك وتعالى. الحمد لله الذي ليس له منازع يعادله، ولا شبيه يشاكله، ولا ظهير يعاضده، قهر بعزته العزة، وتوضع لعظمته العظمى، فبلغ بقدرته ما يشاء. الحمد لله الذي يجيبني حين أناديه، ويستر علي كل عورة وأنا أعصيه، ويعظم النعمة علي فلا أجازيه. فكم من موهبة هنيئة قد أعطاني، وعظيمة مخوفة قد كفاني، وبهجة مونقة قد أراني، فأثني عليه حامدا، وأذكره مسبحا، الحمد لله الذي لا يهتك حجابه ولا يغلق بابه ولا يرد سائله ولا يخيب آمله. الحمد لله الذي يؤمن الخائفين وينجي الصالحين ويرفع المستضعفين ويضع المستكبرين ويهلك ملوكا ويستخلف آخرين. والحمد لله قاسم الجبارين مبير الظالمين مدرك الهاربين نكال الظالمين صريخ المستصرخين موضع حاجات الطالبين معتمد المؤمنين. الحمد لله الذي من خشيته ترعد السماء وسكانها وترجف الأرض وعمارها وتموج البحار ومن يسبح في غمراته. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. الحمد لله الذي يخلق ولا يخلق ويرزق ولا يرزق ويطعم ولا يطعم ويميت الأحياء ويحيي الموتى وهو حي لا يموت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وأمينك وصفيك وحبيبك وخيرتك ومن خلقك وحافظ سرك ومبلغ رسالاتك أفضل وأحسن وأجمل وأكمل وأزكى وأنمى وأطيب وأطهر وأسنى وأكثر ما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتحننت وسلمت على أحد من عبادك وأنبيائك ورسلك وصفوتك وأهل الكرامة عليك من خلقك. اللهم وصل على علي أمير المؤمنين ووصي رسول رب العالمين عبدك ووليك وأخي ورسولك وحجتك على خلقك وآيتك الكبرى والنبأ العظيم. وصل على الصديقة الطاهرة فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين. وصل على سبطي الرحمة وإمامي الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. وصل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المهدي حججك على عبادك وأمانك في بلادك صلاة كثيرة دائمة. اللهم وصل على ولي أمرك القائم المؤمل وعدل المنتظر وحفه بملائكة المقربين وأيده بروح القدس يا رب العالمين.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم اجعله الداعي إلى كتابك والقائم بدينك استخلفه في الأرض كما استخلفت الذين من قبله مكن له دينه الذي ارتضيته له أبدله من بعد خوفه أمنا يعبدك لا يشرك بك شيئا. اللهم أعزه وأعزز به وانصره وانتصر به وانصره نصرا عزيزا وافتح له فتحا يسيرا واجعل له من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. اللهم أزهر به دينك وسنة نبيك حتى لا يستخفي بشيء من الحق مخافة أحد من الخلق. اللهم إنا نرغب إليك في دولة كريمة تعز بها الإسلام وأهله وتذل بها النفاق وأهله وتجعلنا فيها من الدعاة إلى طاعتك والقادة إلى سبيلك وترزقنا بها كرامة الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ما عرفتنا من الحق فحملنا وما كثرنا عنه فبلغنا. اللهم المم به شأثنا واشأب به صدرنا واتق به فذكنا وكثر به كلتنا وأعزز به ذلتنا وأغن به عائلنا واقض به عن مغرمنا واجبر به فقرنا وسد به خلتنا ويسر به أسرنا وبيض به وجوهنا وفك به أسرنا وأنجح به تلفتنا وأنجز به مواعيدنا واستجب به دعوتنا وآتنا به سؤلنا وبلغنا به من الدنيا والآخرة آمالنا وأعلنا به فوق رغبتنا يا خير المسؤولين وأوسع المؤتين. اشف به صدورنا واذهب به غيظ قلوبنا واهدنا به لما اختلف فيه من الحق بإذنك إنك تهدي من تشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. وانصرنا به على عدوك وعدونا إله الحق آمين. اللهم إنا نشكو إليك فقد نبينا صلواتك عليه وآله وغيبة ولينا وكثرة عدونا وقلة عددنا وشدة الفتن بنا وتظاهر الزمان علينا فصل على محمد وآله. وإنا على ذلك بفتح منك تؤجله وبضر تكشفه ونصر تعزه وسلطان حق تظهره ورحمة منك تجللناها وعافية منك تلبسناها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم برحمتك في الصالحين فادخلنا وفي عليين فارفعنا وبكأس من معين من عين سلسبيل فاسقنا ومن الحور العين برحمتك فزوجنا ومن الولدان المخلدين كأنهم لؤلؤ مكنون فأخدمنا ومن ثمار الجنة ولحوم الطير فاطعمنا ومن ثياب السندس والحرير والاستبرق فألبسنا وليلة القدر وحج بيتك الحرام وقتلا في سبيلك فوفق لنا وصالح الدعاء والمسألة فاستجب لنا وإذا جمعت الأولين والآخرين يوم القيامة فارحمنا وبراءة من النار فاكتب لنا وفي جهنم فلا تغلنا وفي عذابك وهوانك فلا تبتلنا ومن الزقوم والضريع فلا تطعمنا ومع الشياطين فلا تجعلنا وفي النار على وجوهنا فلا تكببنا ومن ثياب النار وسرابيل القطران فلا تلبسنا ومن كل سوء يا لا إله إلا أنت بحق لا إله إلا أنت فنجنا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك أن تجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر من الأمر المحتوم في الأمر الحكيم من القضاء الذي لا يرد ولا يبدل أن تكتبني من حجاج بيتك الحرام المبرور حجهم المشكور سعيهم المغفور ذنوبهم المكفر عن سيئاتهم وأن تجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر أن تطيل عمري في خير وعافية وتوسع في رزقي وتجعلني ممن تنتصر به لدينك ولا تستبدل بي غيري. أعوذ بجلال وجهك الكريم أن ينقضي عني شهر رمضان أو يطلع الفجر من ليلة هذه ولك قبلي تبعة أو ذنب تعذبني عليه.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. يا ذا الذي كان قبل كل شيء ثم خلق كل شيء ثم يبقى ويفنى كل شيء. يا ذا الذي ليس كمثله شيء ويا ذا الذي ليس في السماوات الأعلى ولا في الأرضين سفلى ولا فوقهن ولا تحتهن ولا بينهن له يعبد غيره. لك الحمد حمدا لا يقوى على إحسانه إلا أنت. وصل على محمد وآل محمد صلاة لا يقوى على إحسانها إلا أنت.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إلهي وقف السائلون ببابك ولاذ الفقراء بجنابك ووقفت سفينة المساكين على ساحل بحر جودك وكرمك يرجون الجواز إلى ساحة رحمتك. إلهي إن كنت لا تغفر في هذا الشهر الشريف إلا لمن أخلص لك في صيامه وقيامه فمن للمذنب المقصر إذا غرق في بحر ذنوبه وآثامه. إلهي إن كنت لا ترحم إلا المطيعين فمن للعاصين وإن كنت لا تقبل إلا من العاملين فمن للمقصرين. إلهي ربح السائمون وفاز القائمون ونجى المخلصون ونحن عبيدك المذنبون فارحمنا برحمتك وأعتقنا من النار بعفوك يا كريم يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. اللهم أقل على أهل الكفر. اللهم أغني كل فقير. اللهم أشبع كل جان. اللهم أكس كل عيان. اللهم أكسي دين كل مدين. اللهم فرج عن كل مكروب. اللهم ولا كل غريب. اللهم فك كل أسير. اللهم أصلح كل فاسد من أمور المسلمين. اللهم اشف كل مريض. اللهم سد فقرنا بغناك. اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك. اللهم أقضي عنا الدين وأغننا من الفقر إنك على كل شيء قدير.
سورة المباركة الفاتحة.
Dr. Sheikh Faiyaz Jaffer, Malam Nungrsi, respected elders, brothers and sisters in Iman, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The month of Ramadan provides us a unique opportunity with the attendance of mu'mineen, so we request their assistance at this time. We'll be requesting all of our members to contribute towards the family recommended of $350 to cover the Mahr Ramadan costs. Additionally, we are requesting iftar sponsorship throughout the month, especially on the first 10 nights when historically we have challenges. You can meet our treasurers in the back over there, or donate online, or the TV monitors where a QR code is present as well. We will be presenting our progress against our target fund of $150,000 or so throughout the nights of Ramadan. To date, we have alhamdulillah collected about $75,000, and we truly appreciate your assistance in this manner, and help us run our center throughout the year along with its programming. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you and your families for your generosity. So this Ramadan, Child Aid International is providing iftar food baskets to orphans and impoverished families in Syria, Pakistan, Iraq, as well as India. With just $25, you can help feed a family with nutritious meals for 2 weeks during this holy month. So to donate, please visit launchgood.com/food2023. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and your families for all of your generosity. And for any questions at all, please contact Sister Sosan Marali Salim Muhammad or Brother Mustafa Salim Muhammad. Let's watch the following video to understand the plight of our brothers and sisters in these countries. Jazakallah.
While most of us will enjoy proper meals to break our fast, the harsh reality for countless families in Syria, Pakistan, Iraq, and India is hunger upon hunger. In Syria, families have been displaced by a decade of civil war and 2 recent deadly earthquakes. Neighborhoods have been flattened with countless left homeless. These people urgently need food aid. In Pakistan, severe floods have destroyed homes and displaced millions. Nearly all of the country's crops, along with livestock, wheat, and fertilizer, were damaged in 2022. Many remain homeless and hungry. Pakistan has a food crisis and significant need. In Iraq, years of wars, civil unrest, forced displacement, and economic sanctions have led millions to poverty. Countless orphans and widows struggle to access basic necessities. The gift of food provides hope, comfort, and peace of mind for those people living in severe poverty. In India, many families live below the poverty line and struggle to provide children with adequate nutrition, leading to widespread malnutrition. There is extensive hunger and tremendous need. Child Aid International's food basket program provides basic food staples to thousands of families who otherwise suffer from hunger and malnutrition. Your donation of just 35 Canadian dollars or 25 US dollars can provide a food basket to a needy family in Syria, Pakistan, Iraq, or India. Every food basket provides essential ingredients for over 2 weeks of meals. Donate now and give the gift of hope and nourishment during these unprecedented and difficult times. And be a change maker by sharing this campaign with your friends and family and social networks to help spread the word and make an even bigger impact. We very much value and appreciate your support.
Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Tonight's Surah Yasin was sponsored for the Ithal Sawab for the following marhumeens that are displayed on the screen. Let us remember them as well as all marhum and marhumeen with the Surah Al-Fatiha. Lastly, please join me in reciting the ayah of Amma Yujibu 5 times for all those who are sick within our communities as well as all over the world. We have received news from Allentown that one of our brothers, Brother Abbas Saleh Isa, is not doing too well at the time, and we are requesting you all to remember him as he is in need of our du'as. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. عما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه يكشف السوء 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 اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Let us welcome Dr. Sheikh Faiyaz Jaffer with the loudest of our salawat Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وهادينا وحبيب قلوبنا والشفيع نفوسنا حبيب إله العالمين ولا حبيب إلا هو وأهله الذي سمع في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم محمد. ثم الصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المذلومين المنتجبين. قال الله العظيم في محكم كتابه الكريم وقوله الحق والأصدق القائلين ومن يتق الله يجعل له مخرجا. آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد. Yesterday evening, we began to take a look at this famous sermon of Ali alayhi salam, famously known as Khutbat al-Muttaqeen, the sermon of those who have taqwa. And we defined taqwa within these two frames. The first one of them being the station that a believer can ascend to, whereby they have the support of this protective, shield-like charisma that gives them the potential to ward off any sin or vice or transgression. And the higher level is reaching a state where their relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes them to the extent that anyone who reminds themselves of the individual, they themselves are also taken closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or us elevating our station to the extent that just our presence creates an environment for people to be drawn closer toward God and the fulfillment of their duties and responsibilities. And many of our scholars of Islamic ethics, they break down our understanding of taqwa into three sub-dimensions thereafter. They state that truly in order to reach this really high spiritual station in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, such that we're able to, again, reach our ultimate potential of human perfection, we need to make sure that we're crossing off or checking off three primary boxes. The first one of these are what are known as taqwa of the heart. The second are what is known as taqwa of the intellect, al-aql, and the third one of these is what is known as taqwa lil-jawarih, or the taqwa of the physical limbs. At the end of the day, everything within our tradition in terms of how we understand ourselves stems from the human heart. Al-qalb haram Allah, fala taskun fi haram Allah ghayr Allah. As the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam states, that the heart is the sanctuary of the believer. So do not allow for anything, the heart is the sanctuary of God, so do not allow for anything to enter into this heart other than God Himself. And that through a cultivation of this heart, we know that we're not talking about the physical organ, but we're talking about a spiritual capacity that the human being has been gifted with. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says within the Holy Quran that no one will attain success in the world beyond this one, إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ, unless they have reached God with the pure, with the sound, with the perfect, with a content heart. Other times within the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, for instance, فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ مَرَضٍ فَزَادَهُمُ اللَّهُ مَرَضًا, that some of your hearts are hearts that have an illness. And if we continue to transgress, that illness is going to increase as well. And sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks to hearts that are very distant from Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. He states, for instance, فَوَيْلٌ لِلْقَاسِيَةِ قُلُوبِهِمْ عَنْ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ, woe upon the hearts that have become hardened because they do not have the capacity to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in the hadith of Ali alayhi salam to Kumail ibn Ziyad, he says, Ya Kumail, inna hadhihi al-qulub aw'iya, fakhayruha aw'aha. He states, O Kumail, that know that these hearts of ours, they are a vessel of receptivity. And the best one of them is the one which is most receptive, meaning the one that creates itself with the most potential to do more, to do good, to perfect itself. That is the best of hearts. Similar to the body that has the ability to take on as much weight as possible, it's going to be the strongest. The heart, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the hadith of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, compare it to the body in this regard. The heart that has the ability to do that much more good, to show that much more care, to be that much more merciful or compassionate, that is the best of heart. Irham man fil ard yarhamukum man fis sama, as the hadith of the Prophet, for instance, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, states, that have mercy upon those on earth, and you will find that the one in the heavens will have mercy upon you. So at the end of the day, the heart is that central focal point that gives us the ability to truly define what it means to have taqwa. That spiritual station, it all resides in terms of how we care and cultivate for this. And of course, we're talking about how to get to that state. The second stage, or the second box that needs to be checked off in order to reach this state, to be considered amongst the muttaqeen, is to have what is known as taqwa of the aql. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us what is known as the aql, often translated as the intellect, but not to be mistaken with the intellect in the way that we understand it in Aristotelian or Platonic terms. They define, Western philosophers define the term intellect very differently than the way that the Quran and the ahadith of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam define it. How does the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt define aql? They explain it and they define it as a mechanism or as a light that has the potential to be illuminated by revelation. Meaning that when we recite Quran, or when we recite these du'as that we're reciting, or when you are performing acts of ritualistic prayers or a'mal on your own, and you feel awakened, you feel inspired, you feel connected, that is because your intellect is being fed light and that has been purified to the extent that it can continue to be illuminated. And when we see over the course of our lives, weeks, months, years, where we don't feel anything, there's no inspiration that we take from our faith, from Quran, from Hadith, from these du'as of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, that's when we need to go back and take a look and check ourselves and say, wait a minute, what's wrong with my intellect? What's wrong with this gift that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me that is not being awakened toward? These are realities that are consistently being bombarded in front of my eyes. And at that moment of question, that moment where we wonder, why is it that I'm not feeling this feeling? Why is it that I'm not inspired the way that I should be? That's when we need to push our bodies and our hearts and our intellects and awaken it by force sometimes. So for instance, we have the month of Ramadan, which we're supposed to take some benefit from there. If after the month of Ramadan we don't benefit, we're supposed to, like our hadith tells us, for instance, to go and visit the graveyard. It reminds us of our mortality. To go for Hajj, to go for Umrah, going toward the visitation of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, to spending out of wealth, to doing something where we have to sacrifice our time, our body, our wealth, our property, such that potentially it awakens us. I give you this example. Again, because every metaphysical reality, we also have a physical comparison to it. We talk about the heart, we talk about the intellect, the body as well. Sometimes we make the intention that I want to do what is good for my body. I want to start to eat healthy. I want to start to exercise. I want to start to sleep better. I want to start to wake up at a good time. And when you talk about all of these realities, when you talk about all of these ideas, they sound really attractive. Eating healthy sounds great. Exercising regularly sounds great. Sleeping at a good time and waking up at a good time sounds wonderful. Everyone loves the idea of it. But to put in the work, well, that's a totally different story. You can journal about it. You can watch some YouTube videos about it. You can talk to anyone and everyone about it. And you could understand that that is the goal and that is the person that you want to be. And you set that intention, but you don't wake up. You set that intention, but you see the donut in front of you. You set the intention and you say, there is no way that I'm going to go out for a walk or a run today because it's not 60 degrees, it's only 58. We make up excuses all the time, but sometimes you just need to push yourself and you need to awaken yourself to what you need to be, what you want to be, what you have the potential and capacity to be. So it means you put on a sweatshirt and you get outside of your house and you move. And you look at that donut in front of you and you say, you know what, today I'm not going to eat that donut. And I'm going to eat the salad instead, or I'm going to eat something a lot better. You need to waken yourself up to it. And once you do that, after a little bit of time, see, it becomes a bit easier. The heart, the soul, the intellect has that same capacity. And when you don't see it moving in the right direction, that's when we have to awaken ourselves. By performing an act of ritual that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has advised us to perform, again, such that we're able to be moved to that which is virtuous. The third box that we need to check off, and that's what we landed on yesterday very briefly, is what is known as taqwa lil-jawarih. Or what is known as the taqwa, this notion of God consciousness of the body. To demonstrate by utilization of our physical bodies, our obedience or our submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, well, that's hard and that's difficult. But nonetheless, if our hearts and our intellects are not lined up, our bodies are not conducive toward performing in terms of their reaching of that potential that we are seeking. So let's go back toward these words of Ali alayhi salatu wasalam as we began with yesterday, in what is known as khutbat al-muttaqeen. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala. And take a look at these qualities or characteristics of those who have taqwa, this notion of God consciousness, a feeling of the presence of Allah Azza wa Jal. He states, فَالْمُتَّقُونَ فِيهَا هُمْ أَهْلُ الْفَضَائِلِ, that the people of taqwa, again Sermon 193 of Nahj al-Balagha if you'd like to follow, فَالْمُتَّقُونَ فِيهَا هُمْ أَهْلُ الْفَضَائِلِ مَنْتِقُهُمُ الصَّوَابِ وَمَلْبَسُهُمْ الْإِقْتِسَادِ وَمَشْيُهُمُ التَّوَاضُعِ. That the people of taqwa, they are the people of great merit. Amongst their merits, number one, is that they speak in a rational way. وَمَلْبَسُهُمْ الْإِقْتِسَادِ, and their clothing is economical. Their presentation is in a presentable manner. وَمَشْيُهُمْ التَّوَاضُعِ, and the way that they walk is the walking of someone who is humble. And you take a look and you see these three characteristics that we touched base upon really briefly last night, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, in these lines defines some of these most primary introductory characteristics to those who have taqwa, and every one of them have to do with our external mannerisms to others. Look, my friends, it would be much easier if within our religion we didn't have to interact with people as much as we do. I don't mean that in a bad way, but being around people is not always such a great feeling. We talked about this late last night. For those of you who are in the program, not all the time we want to pray in congregational prayers. Not all the time we want to break fast with people. It would be a really incredible spiritual experience if I can perform tawaf around the holy Kaaba, just me in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not have to deal with anyone or anything or any other distractions. Every year I take a group for ziyarah, and everyone says, there's so many people. When's the time when we can go to the Dari of Imam al-Hussein and there's less people? I say, sorry, there's no such time. There's no experience like that. You can't have that. Why? Because I want to have Imam Hussein to myself. Well, yes, we all would like that. Sounds wonderful. But at the end of the day, we are commanded, we are obligated, we are strongly encouraged to doing things as a community for the sake of the knowledge that is only with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But our mannerisms and our interactions with people are the mechanism that define whether or not we are truly close to God or not. You see that the greatest of His creations, Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, Allahumma salli alayhi. His engagement with people around him was the best of example that we could ever find. It would be so easy for the Messenger of God sallallahu alaihi wasallam to resort to his own home and pray and worship and be in a state of God's obedience, as well as every one of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, peace and blessings be upon them. But what made them so unique and what made them so lovable and what made them so charismatic is the fact that they interacted with people in such a unique manner, consistently demonstrating their humility in front of them when they didn't need to be humble in front of anybody. That's what's the beauty of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's the beauty of Ali ibn Abi Talib salamullah alayhi. On that famous anecdote that many of us are familiar with, that one day Ali alayhi salam was walking from the mosque of Kufa back to his own home. And he had a bunch of people who were standing behind him and they were walking with him, to which Amir al-Mu'mineen looks back and he says, my friends, he says, why are you all walking behind me? So they say, oh Ali, in our language, we're your entourage. We just want to hang out with you. We're your bodyguards. We want to spend time with you. We want to make sure no one gives you a hard time. To which Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, he looks at them and he says that I hate hearing the flapping of slippers behind my back. In other words, what? That yes, I am the leader of the Muslim world. Yes, I am Ali, the brother of the Prophet of God. I am the divine representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth. But to walk in a group of people, that's not my style. That doesn't do anything for me. Because my responsibility is to show humility in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I understand. Every one of us, we love to be loved. We love to be validated. That which is much more important and much more meaningful than any money, than any property, is for people to love you and for people to respect you. It's innate. Every single one of us have this desire. And the way and the key to unlocking and solving that is to abide by these words. The hadith of Ali alayhi salam, it states, "Man tawada'a lillahi rafa'ahu." That the one who humbles themselves in front of God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will raise them in front of the people. You show subservience and submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and everyone will appreciate you. But you yourself, you don't look in terms of the way that other people see me, but make sure you don't do so unless you've humbled me within my own self. Never allow for me to get the big head, so to say. Allow for me to remain humble, knowing that my work is only for you, but also give me the ability to be appreciated by those around me. Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, he states, مَنْتِقُهُمَ الثَّوَابِ. They utilize their speech in a meaningful way. وَمَلْبَسُهُمْ الْإِقْتِسَادِ. And they present themselves to those within their community. وَمَشْيُهُمَ التَّوَاضُعِ. And when they walk with a sense of humility. Then the Imam alayhi salam, he continues. And he states, غَضُّوا أَبْصَارَهُمْ أَمَّا حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ وَوَقَفُوا أَسْمَاءَهُمْ عَلَى الْإِلْمِ النَّافِئِ لَهُمْ. Listen to these. The Imam alayhi salam, he continues, again by speaking about how we utilize our most primary senses, again the physical. He states that those who have taqwa, they turn their eyes away from that which is forbidden for them to see. وَوَقَفُوا أَسْمَاءَهُمْ عَلَى الْإِلْمِ النَّافِئِ لَهُمْ. And they only turn their ears to the attention of that which is going to bring them benefit in terms of knowledge. You know, when we have the potential to engage in an act of disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, obviously like we all know, it looks super attractive, right? Think about it. How many of you all, you don't have to raise your hand, but think about it for a second. How many of us right now are like super hungry, right? I'm hungry, right? Yeah. I'm starving. I could use a cup of water. I could use a cup of coffee. I could use a lot of things right now, to be honest with you. But the minute that someone, and think about it, right? Think about it when you're at work. Think about it when you're at school. Think about it when you're at some sort of social gathering during the day, outside, or like during fasting hours during the month of Ramadan. The minute that we have the potential to talk about somebody, right? We forget that we're hungry, you know? Try it. No, I'm just joking. Don't try that. The minute that your pangs of hunger are running so deep, and there's an opportunity to talk about somebody else, all of a sudden we forget the fact that we're hungry. Honestly, it's incredible that we think, right, that this shaitan is hidden from us within this holy month of Ramadan. Man, just look in the mirror, right? Look deep down within yourself. How many things do we look at that are forbidden? How many things do our ears hear that are forbidden? We have cultivated within our own selves this inner satanic reality such that it manifests itself even during the holy month of Ramadan, even while we are in a state of utter, absolute obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's crazy to think about that even at that moment, even in these moments of sacred space, of sanctity, yet when we stop ourselves from committing that act of transgression, how good does it feel? How good does it feel at the end of the day when you're taking that first bite of food and you've broken your fast? In fact, I would argue that the minute that the adhan is recited and we know that our fast is complete, that hunger that we were experiencing 5 minutes earlier isn't nearly as intense as it was 5 minutes ago. It's weird almost, right? Because it's just the thought that of our mind that, oh man, I can't get through this. But once you get through it, you feel the strength, you feel good, you feel happy. There is nothing as difficult in terms of taxing on your physical body and in terms of a ritualistic obligation that we have in our tradition like that of Hajj. When you go for Hajj and you go toward Arafat, and from Arafat to Muzdalifah, and Muzdalifah to Mina, it is so exhausting. You think fasting for 30 days during the month of Ramadan is hard? If you've been for Hajj, those days of Hajj are super tired, super tiring. But what happens? The minute that they're all over, that feeling that you get of joy and of peace and of tranquility and of contentment because you were in a state of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how good does it feel? Right? It feels good for those of you who have been for Hajj. The minute that you break your fast, it feels great. The minute that you fulfill any duty and any obligation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, think about it. When Laylatul Qadr, the night of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's revelation, it passes, Salamun hiya hatta matla al-fajr, and the adhan of Fajr is recited, we all say it every year. It feels like this massive burden from your back fell off. You feel good because you were in a state of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now think about the flip side of that. When you perform an act of transgression, when you perform an act of disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, big or small, at the moment of that act of disobedience, it feels great. There is nothing as pleasurable as that. Again, I liken it to the body. That minute that you put that donut in your mouth, it feels delicious. You can't experience any joy like that joy of sugar entering into your tongue. What happens? 30 seconds after that, you feel awful. Why did I do that? Right? For the most part. For most of us. For me, at the very least. Why? Because I know that I have cholesterol, I'm a brown guy with bad genes, right? I have a lot of issues, and I know that is going to affect me 10 or 15 or 20 years down the road. But that moment of pleasure, as attractive and as enjoyable as it was at that very moment, is going to lead to at least a couple of moments of regret. But a moment of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When I left that donut and I filled myself up with something that was far more beneficial for my body, I'm not thinking about that sweet anymore. I'm in a moment of obedience to my body, and in a moment of obedience and of pleasure and of contentment with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no experience like that one. Which is why Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, he states, وَغَضُّوا أَبْصَارَهُمْ أَمَّا حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ. That for them, when they see a moment of pleasure, when they see a moment that their eyes can glance at something that they shouldn't, and they look away, for them, they are the people of taqwa. Because they are someone who in that moment of incredible deception, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will elevate their rank, and they will find benefit from that behavior in this world and in the next. For a hadith that tells us that when someone has the capacity to look at something that is forbidden, and looks up at the sky, or looks down on the earth, or closes their eyes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them a benefit in this world, in this dunya, and in the world beyond this one, because of that one moment of prohibiting themselves from that which their eye was cultivating them towards. The Imam alayhi salam, he continues. And he states, وَوَقَفُوا أَسْمَاءَهُمْ عَلَى الْإِلْمِ النَّافِئِ لَهُمْ. And as for their ears, they know that when they have the potential to hear something that is forbidden, or being in a gathering that they shouldn't be in, that they make sure that they cultivate their ears to only hearing that which is going to be beneficial to them. Our eyes, just like our ears, they're so easy to fall into the deception of this dunya. The Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, he continues. He states, نَزَلَتْ أَنفُسُهُمْ مِنْهُمْ فِي الْبَلَاءِ كَالَّتِي نَزَلَتْ فِي الرَّخَاءِ. Now this is super important, and we'll conclude with this particular line. The Imam alayhi salam, he states that those who have reached the station of taqwa, they lower themselves when they are going through difficulties at the same level as when they are in times of happiness. What exactly does this mean? It means that for the believer, for the muttaqi, for someone who has reached this spiritual station, they are consistently within a state of what I like to call spiritual equilibrium. Something good happens to them, they say, great, alhamdulillah, it's from God. Something bad happens to them, they say, great, alhamdulillah, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing phases them. And think about it, right? Think about it. That if we, at every single moment of our lives, know that this reality that we're living in this dunya, everything is a manifestation of that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has afforded me, then why should it bother me what I get in terms of that which is good? And why should I be upset when something goes wrong in my life? The minute that we are born into this world, whether we like it or not, we immediately are married to trials and tribulations. Sorry to break it to you. Going through difficulties is intrinsic to the human being. The minute that we were born into this world, we went through a difficulty. It was hard to come out of the womb of our mother. It was hard those initial days of our life. We were crying and no one was understanding us. We were hungry and they thought that our diapers need to be changed. Right? Every day we went through a different obstacle and we went through a different challenge. And as we get older and as we have different experiences, our difficulties and our tribulations, they just change in terms of their form, but essentially to the human being, they're exactly what they were on the very first day, which is unhappiness, tired, exhaustion, no contentment, right? That's what it means to being a human being in some regard. The important thing to understand is that going through difficulties and going through these ups and downs of life is again so central to what it means to being this human being. And coupled with that, and in sort of contrast to that, we also go through plenty of moments of happiness, right? We go through the moment when you graduated college, to when you got your first paycheck, to when you drove your first car, to when you got married, to when you had your first child, to when you had your second child, to when you had your third child, right? We go through all of these moments of joy as well. And when we realize and appreciate and accept the fact that everything comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the difficulties, they're that much easier to bear. What happens? In the Hadith al-Qudsi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, He says, Ya Ahmad, sallu ala Muhammad wa alihi. He says, Ya Ahmad, i'raf ilayya fi al-rakha, a'rifuka fi al-shidda. He states, Oh Ahmad, Oh Muhammad, remember me in the good times, and I'll remember you in the difficult times. It's really easy to remember God when things are going bad, right? Someone is sick, someone's going through financial difficulties, someone has challenge in their relationship. at that moment to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, anyone can do it. The hard part is to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when things are going well. That's the challenge. But what's the reality of most people, right? When they're going through difficulty, they haven't thought about God the entire year. And then all of a sudden they lose their job. And then they go and they wake up in the middle of the night and they're praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they're saying, oh Allah, respond to my dua. Please respond to my dua. Why are you not responding to my dua? And then they come and they say, Sheikh, this God that you always talk about, you say He's so merciful. Why He never responds to my dua? You remember God the entirety of the year? No, I never believed in that God, but now I need Him and know where He's at. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're not that important, sorry to say. Usually I don't talk in a negative manner, but let me just say this. We are not so important that the entirety of the cosmos of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revolve around us. But that rather we need to sort of re-understand or re-examine what it means to be in a state of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'raf ilayya fi ar-rakha. That remember me in the good times and in the bad times, I got your back. Think about it. If you only went and you only called your friend or your family member when you needed money, when you got a flat tire, when you were going through some difficulty or challenge, eventually they wouldn't be your friend anymore. Because the only time that you asked them for anything is when you needed something for them. But it's nice to once in a while send them a nice text message in the beginning of Ramadan, send them a cake on their birthday, I don't know. Doing something nice for them on days when you're not needing or when you're not in need of them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the same. Not in the extent that He needs our obedience or that He needs our supplication or that He needs our worship, but He likes it because He's God and He commands us to being in a state of His obedience. So our responsibility is that when we remember Him in these good times, we will find that He will consistently have our back in the times when we are going through challenges. The Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, he states, نَزَلَتْ أَنفُسُهُم مِّنْهُمْ فِي الْبَلَاءِ. That when we are going through difficulties, we know that it comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what do we have to do? We have to remain patient. كَالَّتِي نَزَلَتْ فِي الرَّخَاءِ. In the same way that when things are going really well, we remember that that also comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, what does that define it up to? Gratitude. These two lines. Patience and gratitude. If we are a believer who is patient in times of misfortune and in times of difficulty and in times of trials and tribulations, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will elevate our rank. In the same way that when we are going through times of joy and of contentment and of happiness, we are in a state of gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God will raise us to that same level. نزلت أنفسهم منهم في البلاء كالتي نزلت في الرخاء. The Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, he continues, he states, ولولا الأجل الذي كتب الله عليهم لم تستقر أرواحهم في أجسادهم طرفة عين. Because we're entering into a new section, we'll stop over here for today, inshallah, and we'll resume tomorrow. Looks like energy is pretty light in this room today. Sorry, it might be my fault. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for tawfiq and to give us the ability to be amongst those who illuminate these qualities of Ali alayhi salatu wasalam and to make us from amongst the muttaqeen. Walhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina wa nabiyyina Muhammadin wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Wa rahim Allah man qara'a surat al-mubarakat al-Fatiha مسبوقة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. صلى على الفاتحة.